There is a channel called crimebodge. Rob Warner, aka a crimebodge, makes content on exposing corrupt police officers in the United Kingdom. Similar to another channel called Police Abusing Powers, Rob brings up many police officers such as PC Cousins, PC Aaron Johnson, PC Aaron Smith, which many moved to and also have been corrupted and also abusing their power, or even getting away with actual crimes. I used to watch this channel and I really liked the aspect of the fact that I can better be able to defend myself, I also be able to better educate myself on UK law. So what happened to crimebodge and where is Rob Warner gone? Well, when it comes down to crimebodge, if you don't know what this channel is, as I stated previously, it is a channel talking about specifically corrupt police officers in the United Kingdom. And I think that crimebodge has done a lot of really good work. I think that he's done a lot of good at exposing all the police actually abusing their powers and actually doing things that they shouldn't really be doing, like being very unlawful and just outright doing illegal things. Especially when he talked about PC's cousins. So, for example, he did a video on what the media will answer the question of what happened with Sarah Everard. And I think that, you know, crimebodge, I think he really did a lot of good of actually talking about it wasn't actually a man problem, as people would say, it was actually a police problem, because not only did PC Cousins commit a lot of crime, but also, you know, he actually pretty much just did a bunch of other stuff as well, like flashing and exposing himself to kids, what he did with his ex-wife. There was all other aspects of PC Cousins. And even though I know this is old news, I think that he did a very good job of talking about the aspects of why the media focused on, oh, because he was a male police officer, they said that, oh, he was an abusive man and men shouldn't be in the police force, so to speak, because all these woke feminists would come out and holding all the signs up, even though it was clearly he was abusing his power, as Rob Warner really states. And as well, when it comes down to other police officers like Aaron Johnson, Aaron Smith, one, I think he actually talked about him doing cocaine and actually having it up his nose, but then he did a drug test, and then the police were very biased. In fact, it was quite shocking of the fact that he literally did illegal substance and he was a uniformed officer and he still got away with it. And there was also Aaron Smith, who I can't remember specifically, I think that might have been a different case, but I know there are lots of police officers he's talked about, you know, them abusing their power, harassing members of the public, and pretty much just say I can't remember what it was called, alarm stressing disorder, that was it. And they would yell that, and then they would also take, you know, people to court. And if you don't know who Rob Warner is, I actually did want to talk about this. Rob Warner, not just his channel, but kind of his history. The reason why he actually started crimebodge was because he actually one day, I think he was separated from his partner, and what ended up happening was that these two police officers were reported because apparently one of his partner, if I can recall this, his partner's new boyfriend, I think, or husband or whatever, went and reported him, or she reported him, and they went and came over. He let them in and just started searching his house without even a warrant, did she? Just walked in, he opened the door, and he also made a lot of these points in his videos that when you actually do talk to the UK police, you should always never ever open your door, you should talk to them for a window. And obviously this seems very unsociable, but if you didn't know this, in the UK they can actually just walk in and actually just start searching your stuff, as what Rob Warner did, or they can decide to, depending on the officer. But obviously the situation that he was in, he obviously was very pissed off, very angry. He obviously, and probably this is why what happened to Rob Warner and why he makes the videos. And that is kind of the history of why he started crimebodge and looking at all these corrupt police officers. And I think that Rob Warner's, like I said earlier, has done a lot of good of actually exposing these police officers. Though I do think that people have said that apparently he's paranoid and crazy because that he tried to call someone up. I did see a video that he was not really exposed, but more like he's just paranoid and crazy. And I'm not really sure. I think because of what happened and what he went through with the police, quite similar to what I did on my, I think it was Mike's Perspective channel. I even talked about what happened with COD Comedy TJ, a streamer. What ended up happening was he was an Omegle streamer, and he ended up having his doors booted in, but he had pretty much damaged property and no accountability from the police at all. They pretty much just smashed it up, did for about $3,000 of property, and he got no compensation or help, and he's pretty much just been in legal limbo. And you can sort of see the comparison between Rob Warner and COD Comedy TJ. And I think this is really important, that actually being able to defend yourself legally against police officers, what you'd say to them. Like, for example, he's done videos on if you get stopped by police, what they can and can't do. So, for example, if they say, oh, I smell cannabis, it's just a kind of a red herring or a straw man. He's just thinks he's got an excuse to search your car for drugs, which under a certain section that what Rob Warner actually talked about, he said that they can only do this if you've been reported, because if you've been reported for that crime, they would be able to search your vehicle. But if they haven't, then they're unlawfully doing that, and even if they do take you into custody, you can just walk out. It's sort of weird how UK law kind of works. You just kind of have to know a little bit just more on this, so you don't really get into any more legal bother than you are if you did get taken into custody. And as well, I just wanted to disclaimer, I'm not actually a lawyer, I'm just talking about Rob Warner and his channel and where he went. I'm not actually giving you legal advice, I'm just telling you all the things that Rob Warner's talked about. And just going back on what happens when police stop you, like for example, if they can take your keys, they can't actually take your keys because they only have the power to stop the vehicle. But unless they know you or you think that you're going to drive away, they can actually take the keys off you. But there has been cases where people have lawfully stopped and the police officers have come and said to turn their engine off. Then you turn the engine off and then they say, oh, give me your keys, which isn't actually legal. And also, especially to do with strip searches and all these other types of situations that have happened. Like for example, I know I'm going a bit off track here, I'll finish up with the car bit first, right? And it was pretty much that this guy went up to him, this police officer, and said, oh, started making excuses like, oh, I smell cannabis and all these stupid other things as well. There's multiple videos that he's shown where, for example, what can happen when you are actually stopped in a car in the UK. And I've just seen enough videos of what happens when, especially, like this one video I actually did watch where he would pretty much, there was this guy that wore the sunglasses and mask that was just driving about on the night, and the police officer stopped him and they started like being very abusive to him. They started like interrogating and harassing him, even though he did nothing wrong legally. They said that, and they were just making it excuses. And I would see this quite very often. It's not just a barrel of just a few rotten apples, it's just more rotten apples than there are apples. And anyway, I think that Rob Warner has talked about this, especially when it comes down to if you do get stopped in the UK, and actually stated some legal facts that you can read even on the UK's government site, because obviously they make law, so you can be able to look this up yourself. Just one more story or at least one video I watched of him was like, for example, not the guy glasses, but I think as well, this was not necessarily by Rob Warner, but this is a situation that happened in Manchester where this young girl got reported for, she tried to report this police officer who was apparently abusing her, illegally strip searched her, and then she also got attacked by the other police officers, because I think there were a few other officers involved, not just with who she got assaulted by, but also these other police officers. They went and not just strip searched her once but twice. And I think this was Rochdale Police in Manchester, and this was like a really serious situation, because you should not be strip searched and then strip searched again and then be abused by these police officers. It's just having these people like walk all over you. It's really scary when this really happens. So that leaves the question of, where has Rob Warner gone? Well, crimebodge, for example, actually made a video, at least the latest one, because he hasn't uploaded in like a year. He actually talked about him actually writing a book of actually being able to defend yourself legally in the United Kingdom. He's been doing his own research. He's put pretty much all that he's learned, not just from his videos, but pretty much the entirety of the law of being able to defend yourself without actually, going to school and learning how to be a lawyer. And obviously he isn't a lawyer himself, but it's just a kind of a basic book of being able to defend yourself if you do end up in legal bother with the police, or they try and get one over on you, or things they can and can't do. It's vampire rules. If they come to your door, you can speak to them from the window. If they stop your car, you're not allowed, you're not legally obligated to give them keys unless they think you're going to drive away or a criminal, which obviously if you just stopped lawfully they won't be able to do. And also being able to have all the excuses of them selling cannabis. And Rob Warner, obviously he's spending a lot of time on his book. He hasn't really disappeared and been able to upload. He's just pretty much just working on his book. He's not really too focused on his channel at the minute. And I did actually think he'd quit, or like all these police officers, not only that, but also would hate him, and actually being able to, look at his channel and go, oh, well, he's just anti-police, or he's, you know, he just hates the police in the UK. But he wasn't trying to do that. He was just trying to expose all of the corruption that happens, especially when in the UK police as well. Then there is someone called Police Abusing Powers, which is quite a similar channel that talks about the same type of stuff on Rob Warner. I'm not gonna talk about this channel too much because it's very similar, but there was also I think to this day he's actually still uploading, so it'd be probably another good channel to actually be able to see how much, you know, the police in the UK are abusing their powers, like I said. And my views on the police after watching Crimebodge, what do I actually think of Rob Warner, and what do I actually think of the UK police? Well, I actually do think UK police, I do think there are some officers that do this type of stuff, and I do think they do abuse their power. But again, I'm not anti-police. I'm not trying to say that all police officers are bad. I'm just trying to state the fact that, yeah, there is nothing wrong with talking about, or, you know, talking about specific, you know, police officers that have pretty much done this, and there is, you know, a long line of evidence of a lot of corruption, especially when it comes down to the UK police. I think personally that, you know, it's good to talk about, you know, corrupt police officers, but also not to just be too anti-police, or even talk about you know, or being able to defund the police. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video about me talking about Crimebodge, what happened to him, and about his new book, and also about all the other police officers that he talked about, Aaron Johnson, PC Cousins, etc. And as well, if you want to click on these videos, well, I've also done some commentary, and I've also done some other content. If you want to click on those videos, I talk about them a little bit more in detail. And before you click off this video, I actually do have a Discord, and also other links to my other channel in my link tree. I talk about other aspects of it a little bit more in detail.